Hello everyone, and welcome to the Mission 46 podcast, the very first episode of the Mission 46 podcast. I'm your host, Curtis Malista, and I'm joined by my co-host, Aaron Vriesman, and our guest, Aaron Solomon Mills. And our hope in this podcast is to talk with Christian Reformed ministers and people connected to the Christian Reformed Church about what does it mean to be Christian Reformed. As you probably know, our denomination has gone through a few years of theological decision making and church polity stuff, and there's been some changes in kind of the makeup and the format of the CRC in ways that classes some are in turmoil and congregations are wrestling through things. And we have found that the CRC really needs to talk to each other. And so we want to offer a bit of a forum where we can have some conversations about why are we Christian Reformed? What's the best things about being Christian Reformed? And how do we encourage the Christian Reformed Church to live into God's call for us to be our little corner of Christ Church? And so this is the first episode to kind of tackle that question. And there's no easy answers, there's no clear answers, but hopefully through many episodes and many conversations, we will be able to put together a good picture of maybe ways that our churches and our pastors can lean into God's desire for his church.
Yeah. Yeah. The idea in my mind at least is that we don't we in the CRC, we go to conferences and interact with people of other circles, um, whether that's, the Gospel Coalition, the OPC or other circles, and then we come into the CRC and we think, hey, the CRC needs to be this way, but we don't talk enough to one another about what is what is worth keeping, what do we need to leave behind. So today we have Aaron Solomon Mills, and you have a great first name there, Aaron, and we're kindred spirits already because of that. But why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us about your ministry, your family, and get us going.
Sure. Well, thank you, Curtis and Aaron. Appreciate being a part of what sounds like an important conversation for us to have as the Christian Reformed Church. I am currently serving as the lead pastor of First Christian Reformed Church of Bellflower. We've kind of nicknamed ourselves Bell One, and that nickname has stuck over the years. I've been here since 2016. Came here as a second staffer in the role of ministry coordinator, but over the past 3 years, transitioned into the lead role when the pastor took another call. And so Bellflower, California is not unlike other what would you call it, like Dutch communities throughout the United States. I guess it was the end of the line as the Dutch moved westward to some extent. And so this is the one of many Christian Reformed churches in the area, the first of many in Bellflower area. Um, the congregation has been around for about almost 100 years. We'll be 100 years old in 2027.
Wow.
And yeah, and so we've really transitioned over many years from a congregation that was populated by people in the dairy industry, and then the post World War II boom of population in Southern California. And as you might know, I mean, there's been a significant demographic switch in Southern California. And it seems as if over the past few years, that is starting to be reflected in our population here at the church. And
Wonderful.
so, where at one point it was, pretty unlikely that somebody like myself would end up here at First CRC in Bellflower. I get a lot of interesting, uh, almost spit takes when I tell them where it is that I'm serving. It really, in some sense, does seem to fit with what is happening in the community, and like I said, now our attendance, I'll say, is maybe starting to reflect the changes that are happening around the church as well. I Yeah, I've been serving in the lead pastor role. Uh we only have two on staff here at the church, myself and the secretary. A lot of volunteer led ministry. Our council for the first few years that I was here was largely, it's kind of like a recycled group of sorts of just people who have led faithfully over a number of years. Most recently now we're starting to get some new people that have come from the community, have come into a reformed understanding of the faith and have made their way onto council leadership. And one of the things that we've been working on for the past year, I would say pretty faithfully, is an understanding of the three forms of unity. I'm sure that we'll talk about this more, but that I think is one of the best things that I think that our church has to offer. It was foundational for my coming into the Reformed faith, and it seems to be something of great value for the community as the demographic shifts within the church.
That's awesome. No, I'm excited to hear more of your story. Tell us about your family a little bit.
I'm my wife Michelle and I have been married for 24 years. I think our 25th anniversary is next year,
Nice.
and we have six children. Uh,
Wonderful.
so, and in addition to our six children, two are uh, adults and out of the house, and one's in college, and I've got three that are still in high school and middle school and elementary school. Uh, and we have two dogs. I have the largest dog breed in the world, an English Mastiff, and I
Oh,
have the smallest dog breed in the world. It was a little toy Chihuahua.
was that intentional? The biggest and the smallest?
I think it just sort of it kind of happened that way. We got the dog a long time ago. It was a Christmas present for the entire family, the little Chihuahua. So he's the oldest. But we were told by many people that you've got to get a real dog, and not just a squirrel.
Okay. Nice. Well, th again, thanks, Aaron, for being on here. And we got to know you just a little bit. But let's talk about the Christian Reformed Church a little. What is it what does it mean to be Christian Reformed in your words? How would you describe that?
Well, the confessions are at the center of what it means to be Christian Reformed. And that has been a blessing to our family, Aaron, especially, after coming out of the non-denominational context, to realize the three forms of unity as almost a channels that help us to interpret the Word of God and to walk with each other in a way that is orderly and fitting. Um, so that is one of the things I think that is primary in my understanding of what it means to be Christian Reformed. I'm also um, I believe that the way that our polity, our church order is set up with a plurality of elders and deacons and a parity of offices. I think that reflects I think that reflects the word of God and the way that the church is set up. And I think that our worship uh, is also important in as far as defining what the Christian Reformed Church is. That it is that it's covenantal and that it's dialogic in nature, and that as Christians we see a unity in our understanding of the people of God.
Okay. No, I love that. I'm kind of curious to hear more about going from non-denominational experience. See a lot of people go the other way. How was it that you went from non-denom to CRC?
Yeah, that's true. My non-denominational experience was interesting in that, I mean, originally I landed in a very small uh, Baptist-leaning congregation with my wife, and this was the first church that I was really a part of, other than occasional participation in the Catholic Church as a child. Um, it was the sense that we got an understanding. That was when I first understand what church looked like. First started reading the Bible and being taught and mentored. But I remember that something wasn't adding up between what I was reading and what was uh, being preached from the pulpit. And so, I had questions every week, which was a good thing. And we met a family that came in and gave us a copy of the Heidelberg Catechism. They were a young adult couple. We were still young, and so we were the oldest young people in the young adults. And they took us aside and they said that this book is the pastor of my heart. And that was just
Okay.
intriguing. And so we started reading it together. And I really do believe that that was the beginning of us uh, becoming reformed, even in a different church context. So after that, I went to lead music. I finished a bachelor's in piano performance and went to become a worship director at a non-denominational church. And we were still navigating the difference between what we were hearing and what we were reading now in the Word of God, but also in the confessions. And I would say that we met a minister. He was a Christian Reformed minister of the Word who came to the church as a minister on loan to our church. And he pulled me aside and he said that it would be good for you to have some ministry training. And so he mentored me, and he had a Bible Institute that was focused on home discipleship. And so we received it, I think, not only for ministry preparation, but really just about how to lead our own family in worship. And as I was walking with him, he started to explain the church that he had come from, and this beautiful tradition of house visitation, and this reformed um, order of worship. And it wasn't that we were practicing it in our church necessarily, but he was laying it out as just this beautiful and formational experience that he had had and I had never seen before in church. And slowly we started to take this opportunity in the non-denominational church and apply these elements into that congregation. And it was
Wow.
tough.
It was tough.
It
Okay.
was tough because we were fought a lot of battles trying to figure out how to best apply these things and to apply them with no form of unity.
Oh,
And so we did it for a while and it was great. And I think we reached a lot of people, and I think it was a absolutely uh, unforgettable and formational period of time for my family as well. And when that was over, the minister on loan eventually moved on to do more work with his institution and with his institute, and I became the lead pastor of that non-denominational church for a few more years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And and your training was in music, so you hadn't been to seminary yet or Bible college yet. So
Yeah, right. So my seminary journey doesn't come until much later. So I continued in that church for a few years, and then eventually we had a brand new building, and it was a perfect piece of real estate for a mega church that came in. And the mega church offered us the opportunity uh, offered me the opportunity to become a campus pastor at one of their locations. And the only stipulation was that, well, you can't stay where you are here because um, that would maybe cause some problems. And so, but by that point, my wife and I were convinced that it was time to go someplace and to continue raising our children in a place where they could be catechized and we could operate within those forms of unity. And so we ended up in Bellflower, and my commissioned pastor ordination, and then the seminary journey started after that.
yeah, this is exciting to me. This is this is this is like the CRC at its best from what I how I understand things. People who people who come in contact with the confessions, the polity, and the worship, and then they want to be a part of it. This is wonderful. So so the confessions, the three forms of unity, the polity that we have, and then the worship style that we have. Those are the three things that really catalyze what the CRC is in for you then.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know what I would say also, and this is my unique experience with the kind of mentorship I had, is that yeah, within the worship and the polity and the confessions, there was a willingness to discuss it. There was an openness that I experienced that I hadn't experienced elsewhere. Where if I had a question, like let's say I had a question about um, you know, dispensationalism versus this new understanding of God's kingdom. The My mentor said, "Okay, well, let's sit down and talk about it." And I really found that to be a mark of the kind of leadership and mentorship that I received from Christian Reformed ministers.
Nice. No,
So
that's wonderful.
when you come into the CRC from your non-denominational background, was it um, a land flowing with milk and honey as you were sold, or was there, hiccups and disappointments? Like, what was that like coming into a place that's been described to you, but you've never actually experienced?
Well, yeah, I could answer that question in a couple of different ways. I think that in some sense it was I mean culturally all those things were still there
Hmm.
and our church does a pretty good job at holding that together. But I did also come to realize that some of those things that were described to me had fallen by the wayside. And I'll speak, I guess, not specifically to my congregation, but across the denomination as I began to meet people, it seemed like some of those things like, that tradition of house visitation, I came in thinking that it had to have been alive and well. I mean, this is just a good and beautiful practice, only to find out um, that people had largely forgotten about it, or it was just kind of this romanticized piece of history in the church. And another one is, I had been told stories about uh, just the Sabbatarian lifestyle. And of course, there was a little bit of chiding it, right? The blue laws and such. And uh, but I came again when I came into the Christian Reformed Church and started getting to know other ministers and congregations and a little bit of my own. Uh, that had been, lost to some extent as well. This the priority of the Lord's Day seemed to be something that we were uh, wrestling with instead of as opposed to this long held tradition and value and high priority.
Yeah. No, as somebody who kind of inherited the Christian Reformed Church by heredity, um, it seems like the hereditary part of the institution can forget the importance of the the traditional practices and start to let those go. And so it's refreshing when someone such as yourself comes in and says, "Hey, these are important beliefs, practices that we shouldn't just give up on. We should hang on to. There's value there." It's good. It's good for people who've been here the whole time to see, oh, well, maybe we should think about that a little more then. Um, so this is
Yeah,
exciting.
yeah, and Aaron, I would say that. I mean, at the same time, I mean, I do. You hear stories where some of those traditions and some of those values had been mismanaged
Mm,
in a sense also. And so, I don't observe this uh, without compassion in that respect. And so, recovery uh, of those practices, I think will take a little bit more than just laying down the template again. I think there's got to be some discipleship and some understanding of where those things might have been um, mismanaged or uh, poorly discipled to
yeah.
the people.
Or we we start to just go through the motions and not without an awareness of why are we doing these things? Well, just because we've
Yeah.
always done it that way, and then yeah, then things can get misused, um, for sure.
Yeah, I'm reminded, Aaron, you'll remember this from systematic class with Dr. Mary Vandenberg and her emphasis on using forms in worship for that um, exact reason was that so we don't lose the reasons why we do the things we do, right? But they're always being grounded back into our confessional understanding of Scripture and not just because of tradition. Because it's so easy for patterns of being to just become tradition. We lose out on why, and we just hold on to them for tradition's sake. And that kind of goes back to what you're saying, Aaron, about how do you disciple kind of these traditions back into the life of the church. Um, it's doing that hard work of retrieval and not just replication of the way it once was, but rediscovering why we do that and then adapting that to today's context.
Yeah, and I've been meeting with a group for almost a year now of people that have been in a creeds and confessions class that we're doing on Wednesday nights, and some of them have this is a refresher course for people, uh, and then others, this is a very new thing to look at anything other than the Bible and try to discern faith and practice. And so really trying to be open to the people's questions and suspicions and just and have the conversations so that we can more authentically retrieve the practices that are informed by the confessions. Um, instead of the sort of thing where it's like, well, this is what it says, and so this is how we do things, and if you don't like it, don't ask any questions. I think that we've had some really good discussions and some understandings of if we really do uh, believe what we're doing and understand the reason for it also.
Yeah, that's great. Um, it it encourages me to hear stories like yours. It makes me think that um, the CRC has a good future, and I'm looking forward to it. So thank once again, thank you for being on this podcast and sharing. Um, so let's talk about the CRC's future a little bit. What where does the CRC needs to go? What do you think needs to happen next? And how do we get there? What are your thoughts on along those lines?
I think that one of the things, and I've been talking around it a little bit, is this some real education for continuing education for our office bearers in the creeds and confessions at an interactive level where we can really understand where leaders of that have been around for a long time or that are just coming into a reformed understanding of the faith. It's just to see where people stand and help them to understand where they stand. And some of that is it might seem like a distraction to the different institutional things that we have to do in the church just to make it run from week to week, or some of the conversations that show up on a council agenda. But it's important that we talk among ourselves as congregations, and then also that our congregations are exposed to uh, the what other Christian Reformed churches are thinking. Um, and I mean that not only I, the Christian Reformed Church is it's a pretty wide tent. We have a Spanish or Latino congregation that meets in our building now, and they are really doing their best to lead this beautiful group of people and bring them to a reformed understanding of the faith. And I think that we would be well served to do the same thing, but also to look at what they're doing and for us to be able to understand each other, uh, to understand classis and synod as expressions of the church, and not to be so congregational in
Yes.
that sense.
Yeah. So for training office bearers, is there how do you train your office bearers there?
We have done a lot of on the job training, to be
Okay.
to be honest with you. I mean, it's nothing like what you hear about, like the PCA model of preparing elders and deacons for ministry, where you have this 5 6 year run before they're going. I mean, just with the terms that we have in our polity, we find that on the job or in office training is very important. So we do a yearly training for our council, and every meeting included with the devotions. I'll say this for the elders. uh, along with our devotions are based off of church order, which is
Oh,
actually an idea that I got from Curtis a couple of years ago. And so again, thinking and communicating outside of the congregation, gave me this idea where, um, instead of only referring to that church order when there's trouble or we need to understand or navigate some issue, to return to it monthly and then to look at it in the light of scripture and the confessions as well.
okay. Way to go, Curtis. Oh, um, no, that's something that I've been hearing a lot lately. The importance of training office bearers, in the creeds and confessions and the church order. Um, the way that our polity is set up, we don't have lifetime elders, so there's this continual rotation, and so you're going to get people who are are not as well trained, and so there's some importance of saying, okay, let's be trained in the church order, let's be
Mm.
trained in our creeds and confessions. And yeah, so it sounds like you don't have a specific curriculum that you use, but you do on-the-job training, and you walk through and discuss the church order is kind of what I'm gathering.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, and we do that, yeah, monthly. Prepare different teaching, and then hopefully it applies out to what we're dealing with month by month also.
Okay.
I mean, I guess I would add another thing. I was at Synod in June, and there was a discussion of classes looking for people with licenses to exhort, and there was also some discussion about commission pastors, and then looking at the amount of candidates that uh, became eligible for call here out of Synod 2025. So you have these three routes towards uh, towards pulpit leadership, and there's a lot of there's varied opinions about them all and how much we should be using them. But I do feel like seeing that they are valid routes towards let's say leadership in the
Hmm.
in the Christian Reformed Church, that um, I I think it's important. Maybe I'll say especially with the commission pastor, that classes begin to think about um, how to help these commission pastors to prepare for ministry, really, whether they're organized churches or emerging, some sort of accountability. And I know our classes is a great commission pastor training program.
Oh, great. Which classes are you?
Greater Los Angeles.
Okay.
But
So you
then,
have quite a few commissioned pastors in your classes then.
Yes, maybe the most.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Great. Sorry,
and then
Curtis.
you know, I was gonna say, and then Aaron, you're also like a student at Calvin with me, and
right.
we graduate next year, and so that's been part of your commission pastor requirements as a lead pastor or solo pastor, is that you also complete your MDiv.
Yeah, yeah, that the MDiv program is my contextualized learning program here at
Okay.
Bellflower.
Okay.
So I believe in that. I really it was it's been a blessing to be a part of, and I really do think it kind of took my own uh leadership and thoughts about uh what to do here at the church in a different direction. And so yeah, I do believe in seminary education. And I
Yeah, I
like
guess I
sorry,
was
go
I
ahead.
was I was gonna say, like, there's like one of the benefits of Calvin in the CRC is having a denominational seminary where technically all pastors have to go do some schooling at. If they don't do their whole degree there, they have to do the EPMC program. And of course, that's where you and I met. And the benefit of just grinding through classes and papers and assignments together is a great way to forge friendship and ministry companionship. So there is this kind of network alive within the seminary. Do you think that, speaking of like the best things of the CRC, that having a denominational seminary is a good thing coming from a non-denom and then coming into senior leadership and having to go to seminary as kind of like a prescription rather than necessarily this like innate desire for seminary education?
I do think that I do think that it's important. Again, I came at it at a different from a different perspective. But I do think that it's important for the CRC to encourage the seminary route and to identify and to pray for young people
Mm-hmm.
that to come through it, because it has been a blessing. I mean, experientially, I can only speak to my own. I'll be 50 years old in November, guys, and so it's been pretty interesting doing school at this age and from and at this route of entry into the denomination. But I do look at our young people, and there are not a lot of kids that are being encouraged to go to seminary.
Yeah,
Right. The
yeah,
harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few is something I've been running into quite a bit lately too. Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. No, I've definitely valued my seminary training, and I I didn't think that I didn't think I would rely on it as much as I do, but knowing the history of the church, going all the way back, that has proved invaluable. The training in Greek and Hebrew, I use that every week. I didn't think, I just thought it would be a hoop I'd have to jump through, and just the importance of a theological framework to understand what Scripture is teaching. I value that so much, and and I think that there's a sense that the more you know, the more humble you are too, because you realize that, boy, we are just scratching the surface on what we know about God here. There is so much more to know, and the Bible has so many things that it'll just kind of hint at or touch on, and I wish you would have said more about that, but anyways, no, I'm glad that you valued your seminary education. You're gonna complete things this coming year, you said.
Yeah, Lord
Um,
willing, at the sometime in mid-May, that part of the journey will come to an end.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's
I
great.
have a countdown timer on my phone that
Do
I
you really?
yeah, yeah,
Nice.
down to the second.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Curtis, do you have one of those?
Aaron sent it to me. We're excited. We're excited.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. But no, just even being in ministry, um, there's uh there's times when it's like, boy, I wish I would have paid more attention in that class, or I would have take better notes in this, just
Mhm.
Yeah.
there's a lot of good stuff to glean along the way too. Um, but yeah, no, and with the importance of training, that means we got to fund it too. So important for congregations and classes to help people get through those trainings so that more people can understand what is what it is that we believe and why we do what we do,
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely. Our classes has a fund for seminary education, and that's been neat to see. We've had a few other people come through and have been provided for greatly by that fund. And my congregation values the seminary education so much. Uh, and that's I've seen that in the way that they've helped me uh, to go through this journey and have freed me up to be able to study and to serve them, to do the traveling that's necessary and the
Yeah.
tuition and books and all of these things.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that is one of the best things about the CRC, because I'm sure other churches have ways of doing it, but the CRC is kind of like forgivable loan system of we'll invest in you, you serve the church. Like, I'm getting a master's degree with no debt. It's pretty amazing. It's a pretty amazing gift from the church.
One thing that I think is historically true about the Christian Reformed Church is the value of education.
Hmm.
All the way back in the 90s, there was the book, The Scandal of the Evangelical Mind. And, a lot of the evangelical world is kind of saying education doesn't matter and they're downgrading it. And the Christian Reformed Church has always been like, no, we want education. This builds us up. This helps us in our faith. And so that is a historical value that I think anyway that we should continue to capitalize on. That education does not make you lose your faith; it strengthens it. Um, so I would like to see that continue.
Yeah. But Aaron, we've got 2 semesters left of seminary, and then think of all of the free time you'll have for ministry work in your church. No more courses. Next summer off of no summer courses. What do you hope to do as a somewhat freshly minted, but also experienced Christian Reformed minister after you're done seminary? Like, where do you want to spend your time focusing?
Oh wow, that's a great question. Um, I've got a few ideas that I'm kind of cooking up, but I will let them cook, and I will tell you this. Uh, I One of the things that I am most excited about doing is spending more time with the people. This has been a busy season. And we have a congregation that we've got some new people that are coming that are younger, but a lot of our congregation are in their latter years, and I can't wait to be able to spend time with them and to talk with them, to linger in visitation, and and to teach that value, I think, to other people. I forget it, guys. I don't speak Dutch, but is it huisbezoek? Is that the huisbezoek? Is that the Dutch word for home visits?
You sound like you speak more Dutch than I.
Well, yeah.
The only Dutch I know is Sputten. So
Oh,
yeah.
okay. I know when it's
A-
hot, they say that it's benauwd. I know that
Okay.
one. And then
Aaron's like seventh generation American. He's like the least Dutchman you'd ever meet.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Sorry.
I'd be interested in seeing if we could recover um and think about what it means to do house visitation in the churches, and not just to the people that experienced it uh
Hmm.
when they were younger, but to take it and see what it looks like in what the CRC looks like, at least in our congregation. So yeah, I want to spend time with people.
Yeah, I think
What
visitation is really important, and I think it's an important part of our tradition. And if you read the early church in Acts, it's, house visits and kind of intimacy seemed essential. There was no such thing as individual Christians. And I think the house visit model is a really great kind of retrieval and fulfillment of that early church vision. because of course we don't all, gather within a city block in a house church, but we are spread out. And so that's a way of kind of taking that, there was like, was it the emerging church that was really big into house churches? It's kind of taking that new idea of house churches and bringing it back in tradition and say, we are a church and let's go into each other's homes and visit with each other.
Yeah, I think that it's a great place to make the point that the gathering is important, and that we are uh, body and soul, and that we need to be together. And I guess I'm articulating that in light of uh, the synod conversation about the virtual church. That was one that really got me um, fired up uh, during synod, and has been a spark for a lot of conversations since then. And so I'll say over these next few months, like I and a few other people are thinking through what it means to push back against this notion that somehow the marks of the church, or the good ministry and the caregiving responsibilities of elders and deacons can be accomplished in a disembodied world.
Yeah. No, there's something incarnational about the church, and where to do that virtually kind of loses that quality. Um, I'm interested in, we've talked about things to concentrate on in the Christian Reformed Church. What do you think that we need to let go of? What things are we holding on to that we we just need to drop? We need to not make
Mhm.
so important. Is there anything like that that you see?
Mhm. I would say that we need to let go of the cynicism that we often have um, about our church, and where we are, and about we need to get rid of the unhealthy cynicism about the past and the nature of tradition, and do more work to find what was good, and what was fitting, and what was a path of blessing that the church ever has walked down. And I don't think that we find that if if we're so down on ourselves. And I don't know if that's a cultural thing. I mean, certainly we want to be realistic, and we want to be able to speak candidly when necessary. But I do encounter, in in the wider church, just a very, often, at least anyway, a like a sour attitude about um, the prospects for what it is that we're doing. And that's one of the things I think. And Aaron, I met you at Gather
Yeah,
uh, in Des Moines in April, and if anything, I think that those meetings uh, were a spark for some positivity about the trajectory of the Christian Reformed Church. And uh, it's hard to focus on what's good and what's hopeful if we are still kind of carrying that sour attitude and the over self-deprecating
mm,
speak and mindset that I often find in the church.
that's fascinating. That's fascinating.
What 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 do you think the like what is the church sour about? Is it because I think I get the sense from some people that like they're sour about our distinctives, that they wish we were just kind of like more generically evangelical. And I'm like, but we're reformed. Let's just be reformed. That's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. I think that you're hitting the nail on the head, right? Yeah, almost like a sense of a sense of shame um,
Hmm.
in our reformed identity. I think that a sense of an overly pragmatic look at uh, numerical growth and decline, and just wearing that as if almost like it's like, well, clearly what we're doing is not working. What does it mean for your reformed identity or reformed theology or practice to work in the church is a question that I think needs to be asked. And again, like I said, yeah, the attitude around it.
So yeah, um, there is there is an unhealthy cynicism. I don't know if this is an example of what you're talking about, but one thing that comes to mind is just how every agency that the Christian Reformed Church has, every agency that reports to Senate has changed its name in the last 20 years. Every single one. Maybe minus Calvin Theological Seminary. I think that one is still the same. But Back to God Hour is now Reframe Ministries. Calvin College is Calvin University. All of these offices are now Thrive. Um, yeah, World Missions and Home Missions are now Resonate Global Mission. We could go on. Um, there, there was this sense of, we need to put the past behind us. I don't know if that is part of what you're talking about or if I'm hitting on something else.
Yeah, Aaron, I wonder about that too. I wasn't there for a lot of these changes, but again, I had come in having heard the stories, so I knew about the back to God hour. And I mean, one of my mentors was a radio minister from the back to God hour for a very long time. And then so, when I came in, the names had changed and I'm not really sure about the reason why. But I wonder that too. And if so, then yeah, that might be what I'm talking about. But again, I mean, I guess a lot of what I'm talking about is the conversations that happen, during the coffee break of like a classes meeting. And
Yeah, it's kind of like we're sick of ourselves a little bit,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
that you know we're not growing, so we must be failing. And yeah, no, I think I'm getting what you're saying, and there is some of that for sure.
Do you have a remedy, Aaron?
Well, like I said, I do think that if and I don't know whether or not I don't know where that gather was focused on this, but I do think that that was a positive outcome of initiatives like that. And so I can only be led to believe that the more that we do get together, uh, and I guess I speak again as you're on the West Coast, Curtis, but we are a Christian Reformed church on just the edge of the other side of the country, and you get disconnected from what's going on and life with other congregations. It's busy out here, and we're doing our own thing, and then we start to think about just just ourselves. But the more I think again that churches can interact and not function as silos, you're bound to hear, as I did in Gather, and then as a delegate to Synod, you hear the great stories of what God is doing in other places. You come to learn that, hey, I like what this person has to say. Hey, wait a second, we have a lot in common. And maybe that's the whole circulatory system that Vanderklay is talking about. But yeah, just to clear up some of that and to have some intentional mixing going on. Curtis Seminary is another place where I think that we learn that, hey, we've all experienced similar things, and 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 wait a second, the Christian Reformed Church is a great place to be. In that sense, I'm glad that I didn't grow up here. Sometimes I wish I did. Sometimes I wish I could just like look back and think about these things together and having had experienced them alongside of everybody. But in some sense, it also gives me like a fresh perspective and a platform to be able to say, hey, guys, we have a beautiful church.
I I agree with you completely. There's there's advantages to coming into something. There's advantages to growing up within something. But I think that's one of the reasons why I was looking forward to interviewing you today, Aaron, is because you you saw something here that's valuable, and I think it's good for us on the inside who've inherited this from hereditary reasons,
Hmm.
to hear that, hey, there's some good stuff going on here. So much so that I want to be a part of it,
Yeah,
voluntarily, not
yeah,
just because mom and dad said so, or this is where I happen to be born. Um, so that is encouraging, and and um, and to hear you, who doesn't have the history and the baggage that some of us carry, to say, we need to drop that cynicism because we have something
yeah.
great here. That's that's going to make me think for a while. So thank you for sharing that.
Sure thing. Appreciate that. I one of the I've listened and read some of your thoughts, Aaron, also. And so then, getting to meet you at Gather, I was like, hey, there's my namesake over there. And so yeah, no, I appreciate some of the discussion that has been had. And I mean, Curtis, you were on that call too about worship and
Hmm.
a vision for worship going forward also. It's just it's confirming, I guess, to be thinking about it in seminary, to be experimenting with it in the church, and then to hear that there's other churches that are thinking about the same thing.
Right. And my hope is that we can kind of think about this together,
Yeah,
that we're not only going to conferences and interacting with circles outside the CRC, but that we can say, okay, what let's put our cards on the table. Let's talk this through. Let's come up with something together. Um, Otherwise, I think the cynicism about the CRC is only going to grow, um, the less that we interact with each other. So that's my opinion anyway. But
I
yeah,
think there's some truth to that, but I think and with that just comes a desire to always put the best of the CRC forward, right? There's a reason we all find ourselves in the Christian Reformed Church and why we feel comfortable here, why we feel that God has called us here. And so we should not be ashamed of that and we should lean into it. Aaron, I think one of the things I hear you saying is just the importance of classis and synod as a way of having those connections to other churches and to lose some of that congregationalist kind of attitude that we've adopted within the last few decades and go back to being yeah, a more reformed church in our kind of ecclesial relations with each other.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Classis and synod and other opportunities and getting to read some of the things that go out as well are those opportunities to kind of lift your head above your own experience and realize the connection that you find in the Christian Reformed Church that transcends Dutch
Hmm.
bingo.
Yeah,
Yes, that's exactly it. Um, is I I I get annoyed with Dutch bingo and I'm Dutch and I've grown up in West Michigan and I but I just think, you know, all these connections that you might have, um, that's it's kind of the superficial level of the church, this is not substance of the church. Um, yeah.
we just need to rebrand it to CRC bingo, because
Yeah.
this is the beauty of a like
Yeah.
a reformed church network, is it's like, oh, I know Aaron in Southern California and I know another Aaron in West Michigan. I know these other people in those areas too. Have you met them? Right? It doesn't matter that you're Dutch. It's not the Dutchness that keeps us together. It's the fact that we're part of the Christian Reformed Church and we do ministry together across this entire continent. And so you have these connections. And I know people that have come into our church and they just fall in love with that idea, that they just, because of their participation in the Christian Reformed Church, they now know other Christians that believe the same things as them across the continent, and they could go to another church and, have a place of connection and a place that feels like home. Whereas their previous experience was, it was just me and my little church of like 30 families against the world.
Yeah.
We had no idea that there was like, other churches that were out there doing the same thing as us. It's kind of like the perception they had of themselves, right? We had it just yesterday in our church. A family from the church my wife grew up in was in town visiting, and they were in the pew on Sunday morning. And there's a great connection because it's like,
Yeah.
oh, we know you from years ago because we went to church together. And yeah, it's a wonderful thing to have that connection, because that goes back to that kind of classist synod connection points, Calvin Seminary as a place to kind of grow and be formed together for ministry and so on.
So, Aaron, do you have any other thoughts or things that you want you want us to walk away with today that we didn't cover yet?
Yeah, no, I'm deeply grateful for the conversation. As I was thinking about that whole question about what it means to be uh, CRC and just my own background. And I could get into you know the cultural or ethnic aspects of it. I think one of the first things I said is that it's surprising to a lot of people that I'm in the Christian Reformed Church as a black person, and but to be honest with you, that falls by the wayside when you get into the thick of relationship, of covenanting together. Yeah, it really doesn't matter so much at all. Um, so I thought about bringing that up at the end, but maybe I won't. I'm glad to be a believer and a, a human and and part of a great church, and to get to
Yeah.
talk about it at this level also.
Yeah. And you're going to be a full-fledged minister of the word and this is exciting. This is
Hmm.
great. Um yeah, we're glad to have you. When we asked you to write up something about what it means to be CRC, both Curtis and I, when we read what you wrote, we were like, wow, this is inspiring. This is this is encouraging for us. So
Yeah.
looking forward to putting that putting that out there and making that go live too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you guys.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Aaron, for joining us on this first episode of the Mission 46 podcast. Hopefully, there'll be many more to follow and good conversations. And everybody who's listening, look for Aaron's Why I'm Christian Reformed Church article on the Mission 46 website. And please subscribe and share this podcast around to your CRC parishioners and neighbors and friends, and also to anybody who is curious about what it means to be Christian Reformed.